Okay, so we were talking in some prior videos. I've got my easel out today just so I can just demonstrate some numbers. I think that something you've got to remember from the mind of somebody who flips houses. So we flip a lot of houses, but what we look at first is our exit strategy. How are we going to exit out of the property? Are we going to do a big rehab, a small rehab, or are we just going to literally clean it out and then throw it back on the market, ready for somebody else to do work, which we call wholesale. Some other people have different names for it, but whatever. One thing that I didn't understand when I first moved over here, I come from a world where closing costs, they're about 1%, and then you've got to pay, your attorney or solicitor, as we call them, $1,000, right? That to me was closing costs. I was always blown away when I found out that closing costs over here in the United States, or certainly in Florida, are as big as they are. And a little known fact that you'll probably hear a lot of me saying is that when you watch the shows on TV, they never explain to you what I'm about to explain to you. So if you're a big fan of Flip and Flop and all these types of houses, of these shows on HGTV, I guarantee you they're never going to show you what I'm going to show you. This is the reality of flipping houses. So when we sell a house, we have to factor in a certain percentage of the amount that we sell it for as closing costs, okay? That's never to be seen again money, okay? That's not profit, that's just what it costs to sell a house here. And you might be shocked if I told you that we always factor in between 8 and 10%. That's a big number. You're selling a house for, let's use 100 grand, okay? And you can do the maths for yourself from there. And I'm only using 100 grand because I'm not that smart. So to do the math quickly myself, right? So we always factor in about 8 and 10%. So if you're selling it for 100 grand, you've got to factor in 8 to 10,000 in closing costs. And that's going to bring us down to why you hear a lot of flippers, wholesalers talking about this 70% number, okay? And we're going to talk about why 70% is such a magical number in the second part of this video. So how is it so much? And if you're wholesaling, you need to understand this. If you're buying a house, you need to understand this. If you're flipping a house, you need to understand this, okay? Let's just say you're going to sell the property for 100,000, okay? That's known as an ARV, which stands for after repair value, okay? Let's say that property goes on the market for 100,000. I want to be clear here, you've got about 6,000 in closing, in real estate fees, okay? So that's $6,000, let's do it here, in realtor fees. Okay, why? Well, it's common knowledge that the listing realtor wants 3%, and the person who buys the buyer wants 3%, okay? So we've got 6 grand straight off the top in real estate fees alone. Now, before you start arguing with me and going, well, I know a realtor who will do it for 4, I know a realtor who will do it for 5. I'm just being a generic here so you can understand. And even if you are saving $1,000, for the purpose of this video, it's not going to really swing the needle on whether you do the deal or you don't. So you've got real estate fees. The next thing you've got is dock stamps. So dock stamps are usually customarily, certainly in the areas of Florida that I do business, paid by the seller, not paid by the buyer. Again, I know that for me in the UK, they're paid by the buyer, and the dock stamps in the UK at the moment is, well, that's a discussion for while I have a beer with you, really. So dock stamps are 0.7%. So dock stamps on this would be $700. Okay, so we're down to 94K there. We're down to 93,300 there. So we've taken $700 out for dock stamps. Now, when the buyer buys, it's more than likely, again, it's negotiable, so there's always going to be somebody who's going to be on my feed that's been pedantic, but it's negotiable. But it's more than likely, it's customary that the seller in my areas of Florida pays the title insurance, which, without getting into the nitty gritty about, title insurance on the mortgage and so on and so forth to the seller, it's roughly about, on 100 grand, it's roughly about 500, well, it's about $525. We'll call it 500 just for rough maths. So we're down to 92.8. We started out with 100, we're down to 92.8. Now why do I say 8 to 10%? Because you might have seen another couple of videos I've done that when I go to sell this house, what the buyer is going to do is find a home inspector, and the home inspector is going to go, well, it needs a little bit of this, it needs a little bit of that. Sometimes it can be minor, a couple of $100. Sometimes it can be fairly major. And, I need an electrical panel changing. They might need, some GFIs changing, whatever. But we've always got to factor in, we always factor in about 2% in repairs. So we're down to 90,800.